It's over 90 degrees in Lincoln, but for Big Red fans, it's already fall. Football time in Nebraska. The first challenge, defending Conference USA champs Southern Miss. For some, a final chance to make history. For others, an opportunity to reach new heights. And a new day starts with a traditional journey. Nebraska quarterback Taylor Martinez said it's his favorite part of game day. The tunnel walk takes roughly 60 seconds before the team explodes into a sea of red. It is the 319th consecutive sellout at Memorial Stadium as Nebraska kicks off with Southern Mississippi. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Janine Edwards will join us shortly. Nebraska's coming off a disappointing 9-win season last year. Yes, they can still run the football. They are Nebraska. The question is, can the passing game improve enough to take them from the top 20, Ed, into the top 10?
And it's the question that has been on everybody's mind here in the Cornhusker State. So many words have been spoken and written about Taylor Martinez and the work that he has done on his throwing motion. Went to a private coach during the offseason to work on his weight transfer. Looked great in practice the other day. Let's see if that translates onto the field. And the reason that the Cornhusker fans want to know if the passing game gets better than it was last year, because they know what they have in the backfield. Led by Rex Burkhead, this is a group of 4 guys that runs behind an offensive line with a couple of question marks. But Burkhead is a guy who can run between the tackles with good power. He's good in the open field at making people miss. He's also very good out of the backfield catching the ball. So if Martinez can become more accurate and more consistent, especially on the downfield throws, I think Nebraska offensively could be good enough to be in the lead of the Legends Division at the end of the season.
On the other side, Southern Mississippi won 12 games a year ago, which was a school record, but they did it behind quarterback Austin Davis, who's now in the NFL. What we have in his place are 3 guys fighting for the starting job, and we will see at all 3 of them.
Can you imagine the first day on the job on a game for Ellis Johnson? He's got to play 3 quarterbacks in this noise. Ellis, of course, a longtime defensive coordinator, left South Carolina to come back to Southern Miss, where he was the defensive coordinator in the late 80s, but a tough start when you have to play 3 quarterbacks to find out if you have one.
More than 81,000 on their feet here at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln for the start of their college football season.
We didn't always watch football at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Wheatgrass for our neighbors.
And moosh moosh.
Sport.
Protect the football. Buffalo Wild Wings. This is Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week.
Welcome back to Lincoln. One of the rule changes this year, kickoffs will be from the 35-yard line instead of the 30. The Rules Committee trying to eliminate some of the high-speed collisions that can lead to serious injury, especially concussions. If it's a touchback, the ball will come out to the 25 instead of the 20. The kicking team can't get that long-running start anymore, and if you have in the legal formation, if you're not at least touching the 30-yard line as you kick off, it is a 5-yard penalty. 50 years of sellouts. 50 years. They love their football.
They're adding 6,000 seats next year, so we'll see if that continues. I have a feeling it will.
Corey Acosta to kick to Kenny Bell and Tim Marlowe. Deep for the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. Marlowe. Straight up the middle with a gap, tripped up as he crosses the 30-yard line. Let's check in with Janine Edwards. Janine.
Well, Mike, it's been a roller coaster ride here in Nebraska for Taylor Martinez. From early Heisman talk to one of the most scrutinized college players. And it did take an emotional toll on Martinez. He took it upon himself to do that extra work this summer with the quarterback coaches that Ed mentioned. And it continues. Quarterback guru Steve Calhoun spoke with him just this week, reinforcing the details of their work. Martinez knows the number one topic here in Nebraska is his throwing motion. He's got a lot to prove today.
Janine, they come out with two tight ends in the formation, and they throw on first down complete to Quincy Anunwa, who was the number 3 receiver on this ball club a year ago. Short gain, and they will hurry up on offense.
And they are going to try to go extremely fast this year, faster than they did last year. And I think with this heat, pretty good call against Southern Miss.
Burkhead, the eye back on the toss, spins and gets across the 40, maybe a yard shy of a first down. This is not a big Southern Mississippi defense, but it is very athletic, and they have some speed. They know they can't line up just straight man-to-man and take on Nebraska, so they're going to try to move a lot. Fullback straight ahead, and that is the big guy, Mike Merrow, 250 pounds, who started his career at Alabama, transferred to Eastern Michigan. Now he's here at Nebraska. They thought if they let him grow, he could get to around 290 and play defensive end, but they love him at fullback.
And they have to keep him at about 250 for that fullback, because he'll creep to 265 if they're not watching him.
First down to the ball game. Draw play. Burkhead bobbled it, got it back. Still on his feet. 40. Touchdown, Nebraska. And after the first Husker score, the balloons go off. Well, how about that? They nearly get a turnover on the handoff. Then Burkhead gets the handle and gets the touchdown. 57 yards out. Maher for the point after. And the Cornhuskers strike quickly.
A little bit of a high handoff. It hit Burkhead in the shoulder. Excellent job keeping it, but a massive hole. And Ja'Corius Cotton, the safety from Southern Miss, took a bad angle, and Burkhead just fast enough to take it all the way.
A career-long 57-yard run by Burkhead, and one of the last things the Southern Mississippi coaches said to us on our conference call this week, we can't give up the big play. They just did.
Yeah, and that was poor tackling and angle on the back end. And Ellis Johnson, of course, with his long background on defense, they're going to look at that on film and say, wow, that can't happen. We cannot have a safety come up and have a shot at that and just whiff and not be able to finish the play. But Cotton, the tight end, came through, and there was nobody to block. He was standing around waiting for somebody to run into him.
Maher, the all-Big Ten place kicker and punter, to kick the Lampley and Sims. Lampley is a tremendous kick returner, but they will not get the opportunity this time. They will take the ball out and mark it at the 25.
Ja'Corius Cotton is a guy that the coaches also told us very good against the run, but watch as he comes up from his safety position. It's almost like he thinks he's in practice, and it's tag off. He never even makes an attempt to make the tackle. He took a little bit of a poor angle, but I just can't even tell what Cotton was thinking there. He didn't even come up to try to make a tackle.
Chris Campbell getting ready to take his first collegiate snap. Number 13 at quarterback is Desmond Johnson, with him in the backfield as a running back. Johnson trying to get outside, turns the corner, 30, 33-yard line before he's knocked out of bounds. Andrew Green drove him out. Campbell in a three-way battle for the starting job. He has been the most consistent quarterback, even in spring ball and throughout the fall. He knows the offense better than anybody. He'll get 2 or 3 series, then we'll see Ricky Lloyd and the all-star recruit Anthony Alford will follow him as 3 guys battle it out. Johnson again. And he's got the first down. Chase Rome made the tackle. Let's check in with Janine.
Well, Mike, Ellis Johnson was telling me that the thing he told his quarterbacks right before the game, number one, just keep your poise. He said you don't have to strike everybody out. We just don't want you letting them hit it out of the park either. He said we don't really like having a three-quarterback situation. We're hoping the poise will help somebody separate today.
And Janine, whoever they have back there, they're playing behind a very talented offensive line. 4 starters return. On the left side, Jason Weaver, the left tackle, Joe Duhan, the left guard, second team all-conference. The other 3 solid. That's got to be the strength of this offense.
Absolutely. I had a chance to call their bowl game against Nevada and Hawaii last year, and this is a very solid group. And that time you saw a good push. And Campbell, a guy who a lot of people didn't think had the speed to run the ball. He actually ran a 4.61 40 during the offseason, so plenty of speed.
Johnson straight up the middle, first down and more. Johnson to the Nebraska 38-yard line. And that line opening up holes. Let's take a look at today's impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
12 wins last year, a school record for Southern Miss, and a lot of it had to do with Tracy Lampley, a guy. Southern Miss was going fast.
False start on the offense. Number 62. It's a 5-yard penalty, and it'll remain.
You jinxed Duhan by mentioning how good he was. Excuse me, that was Quattrochi, the center. Desmond Johnson, we've already seen moving around the backfield. Tracy Lampley, a guy that they're going to move around a bunch of different spots. More of an inside receiver, but they'll use him a lot. And Jamie Collins is a guy now that Tommy West, the new defensive coordinator, is going to move a bunch. He's an NFL-type talent.
Hester in at running back. And Hester will get a couple down to the 41-yard line. Middle linebacker Will Compton, who was second on the team in tackles last year, and the undisputed leader of this defense, made the stop.
Well, for Southern Mississippi, who had the best offense in school history last year, not only losing an NFL quarterback, but they also are without their 2 top running backs. Jamal Woodyard was hurt during the bowl game, not back from a knee injury. And Kendrick Hardy, a big back, has a hamstring injury, so they're down a little bit in depth in that backfield.
Campbell looking to throw for the first time out to Hester in the flat. Tries to make a move, but only gets back to the line of scrimmage. Nice play by Ciante Evans, who is the designated nickelback. And as you could already tell, a solid tackler in the open field.
And Evans, a young man that the coaches have talked about, had the best summer into fall camp. Coming out of spring ball, they were wondering how he was going to fit into the mix, but he has elevated himself to the starting 5th defensive back in a position that's almost always on the field against a spread team like Southern Mississippi.
First big third down, and Nebraska has to use an early timeout on
Nebraska.
defense.
That's their first, and it'll be a 30-second timeout.
But that's better than having confusion out there and giving up the big play, isn't it?
Big third down, and I think the other thing, of course, we're looking at first-year defensive coordinator John Papuchis, who took over for Carl Pelini, who took the job at Florida Atlantic. But you're in that area where you give up 7-8 yards and the other team may be going for it on 4th down. So maybe this is a time to get everybody on the same page about, hey, you may see a screen or something like that by Southern Miss to make this a manageable 4th down.
It's an epic matchup in the Cowboy Classic tonight on ABC. Brady Hook's Wolverines roll into Arlington for a matchup with Nick Saban's Crimson Tide. Saturday Night Football presented by Windows as part of Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week. Number 8, Michigan. Number 2, Alabama. Alabama lost so many guys on defense, but nobody in the world has any doubt that they will be replaced by Nick Saban.
And their offense is so much better than they get credit for. With that offensive line, that offense could be dominant this season for Alabama.
3rd and 13, Anthony Alford is in for the first time. This is a tremendous athlete, but he doesn't have a chance to show his stuff as Nebraska swarms defensively and brings him down. That'll make it 4th and 10.
You know, when you bring in the freshman, if you're Nebraska defensively and you see Alford come in, I think you would think quarterback draw right from the start. So I'm not sure you take Campbell out of the game there on a 3rd and long. Now you're into a 4th and long, and you're in that situation where if you punt it and it goes in, you're only gaining 20 yards. So aggressive call here, but I think they should punt this.
Campbell is back in, and it will be a quarterback pooch kick and it's inside the 16-yard line as it bounces sideways out of bounds. So instead of taking the gamble from the 40, they follow your advice, and good advice it was, and kick it out of bounds.
Well, we saw Le'Veon Bell maybe get into the Heisman conversation last night against Boise State. People around here think this young man may get into it as well. We'll see what he's got in the next drive coming up.
AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network, covering 2,000 more 4G cities and towns than Verizon. AT&T, rethink possible.
My Volt is the best vehicle I've ever driven. I bought the car because of its efficiency. I bought the car because I could eliminate gas from my budget. I don't spend money on gasoline. It's been 4,000 miles since my last trip to the gas station. It's pretty great. I get a bunch of kids waving at me, giving me the thumbs up. It's always a gratifying experience. It makes me feel good about my car. I absolutely love my Chevy Volt.
Everyone comes together to do what we love.
I spend every day on the water.
It's dramatic and it's rugged. I think it's going to be really cool.
That I have in the ocean, they're my favorite moments in my life.
Mid-grade dark roast forced fresh, full tank brain freeze keg donuts, rolling hot dogs, bag of ice, antifreeze, wash and dry, diesel self-serve fix-a-flat, jumper cables, 5% cash back. Sign up for 5% cash back at gas stations through September. It pays to discover.
Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. Let's take a look at today's impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A. Ed?
Well, they are stacked with some talent at receiver. Kenny Bell, a guy who he looks the part. He really runs well, good routes, good hands. Spencer Long, a former walk-on, has gained about 50 pounds since he got here. We saw him on that touchdown round with a great kick-out block, their best interior lineman. Will Compton at middle linebacker had a nice visit with him, talking about the leadership work they did during the offense and offseason. And Stafford, a safety who came in as a junior college transfer last year. The coaches say he's a big-time guy. We're expecting him to step up, and he'll be huge in the Big Ten, a running conference.
Abdullah comes in for the first time to get his crack at running back. This could be a huge boost for Nebraska this year. They've got 4 guys at the I-back position they think can play, and Rex Burkhead may not have to have the 284 carries he had last year, which was only 2 off the school record. And he told us, he says, you know, maybe 30 carries a game is not good in the long term for me. Short gain here, which will bring up about a 3rd and 3.
And Abdullah, a guy with great speed, but spent a lot of time in the offseason working on his strength. He got more powerful, so not surprised to see him in the second series.
Martinez to throw underneath, and enough for a first down, as the catch is made by his starting tight end, Ben Cotton, who had 15 catches a year ago, and a pretty good one.
And right away, you can see Taylor Martinez looking better as a quarterback. Each of his throws have been unbalanced, stepping through on his left foot. That was an accurate toss.
Here's the toss to Abdullah. He's back to the line of scrimmage, maybe a little more. And the nose man, Raheem Nunez-Roches, chased him down.
And this was not something you saw much of by Taylor Martinez last year. Stepping into a throw, he used to hop a little bit. That's a quick drop, sets his feet. He's facing the target. Just looks like a different quarterback than he did at the end of last season, where everything just fell apart for him with his technique.
4-man rush for Southern Mississippi. Martinez now scrambling. Completes it to Abdullah in the backfield, and Abdullah up to about the 33-yard line before Alex Walters takes him out of bounds. Alex Walters, Southern Mississippi fans are going to be very happy to see him starting at corner. They were afraid they were going to lose him with a hip flexor and a quad injury. Hasn't been able to practice much, but he's good to go right now. And he's a good corner. Burkhead comes back in on 3rd and long. Martinez again throws underneath, got it to the 40-yard line. That's going to be a first down, complete to Stephen Osborne.
Yesterday when we were talking to Taylor Martinez, he said, I can't tell you I'm not going to revert to some of my old stuff. You know, it's like taking your golf swing from the range onto the playing surface. He said, I can't tell you I'm not going to revert. So far, he has not reverted. He looks very efficient.
First down, Nebraska at the Husker 40-yard line. Martinez again steps into that one and throws a strike down to the 43-yard line. Perfect toss to Quincy Enunwa, and Enunwa just keeps motoring inside the 35-yard line. Would not go down. Enunwa out of Moreno Valley, California.
This is going to be an awfully tough offense to defend if Taylor Martinez stays looking like this. That looks like a classic quarterback. Step through, clear the left shoulder, get the right shoulder headed towards the target before release. He just looks like a different guy than he did at the end of the season last year.
Going to be hard-pressed to argue with that technique, and certainly not with the result. Every ball he's thrown so far has been on target. And if you've got Burkhead back there, who rushed for 1,357 yards last year, and Martinez also almost a 1,000-yard rusher, if he can throw, how tough are they going to be to stop? Martinez changing the play. Short step and nearly picked off. That would have been a pick six for Darren Wilson, who has had 7 career interceptions, 3 that have gone for touchdowns.
Well, at that time, right as Martinez let that ball go, he looked over at Bell like he didn't do what he expected. It was an audible, and I'm not so sure that Bell didn't get it. Looked to me like Martinez may have been throwing the slant, and Bell ran the hitch instead. That's why that ball was thrown inside.
3rd down, Nebraska. Martinez backs up into the gun with split backs on either side. For the end zone, touchdown Bell. A perfect throw from Taylor Martinez, who said he wants to complete 70% of his throws this year after 56 only a year ago. It's off to a great start. A picture-perfect 26-yard strike to the speedy Kenny Bell. Martinez 6 out of his first 7 for 77 yards. Maher on for the point after. And Nebraska extends its first quarter lead to 14 points.
Let's take a look back last year and watch his feet as he bunches them together, and his upper body actually falls away from the throw. And a ball that was underthrown and poorly thrown against Michigan State is intercepted. But there were times where his lower body got set, he cleared his hips, got his left shoulder out of the way, and everything was pointed right to the target. So this is what Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, met with him at the end of the season and said, we've got to get you back to that place. And Martinez spent the offseason working with Steve Calhoun, quarterback coach out in California where he's from. At that time, throwing back, falling back just a little bit. But his feet were so much better than you saw in that tape. So obviously the offseason work by Taylor Martinez with Steve Calhoun. Now remember, college coaches cannot work with their players during the offseason. So it was up to Taylor Martinez to make the choice to go pay someone to help him, because the coaches, by rule, can't work with him, and took it upon himself to do it. It looks like it's paying off big time.
Lampley and Sims are deep. Lampley, 2 yards in the end zone, will bring it out. This kid can fly. Lampley with a kicker to beat. Can he go 102 yards? Yes, he can. Once he hit that seam, the only guy who had a chance was the kicker, Brett Maher, and he did not have a chance.
That was a lot of green out there for Maher.
Oh, boy. What a way to get back in a ball game.
And with the new kickoff rule, we were talking about how because if the receiving team kneels, they get a bonus of 5 yards. They're trying to incentivize that. Now I think you see what some of the kicking teams are going to do, which is saying, well, if you're going to give it to them at 25, we're going to pooch it and kick it short. Well, that came up and bit Nebraska on that choice.
Corey Acosta with a point after, and all of a sudden it's 14-7.
And this is one of the hardest things in a new season. A lot of your special teams, especially at a place like Nebraska, has a ton of second and third string guys on their kicking teams. Well, this is their first game for a lot of them. You have a lot of young guys who've never been on the field, and this was, frankly, horrible coverage by Nebraska. I'm not saying it wasn't blocked well, but there was a lot of red shirts that were glued to white shirts not getting off blocks. And Lampley didn't have much work to do, quite frankly.
Lampley, one of the best all-purpose players in all of college football last year. 574 yards catching the ball. They put him in the backfield. He rushed for 463. Punt returns and kickoff returns. He was just terrific last year, and obviously he's off to a sensational start here. They say it's a 100-yard kickoff return, even though he took the ball 2 yards deep in the end zone. And now Nebraska will have a chance to match it. And there's a pooch kick, which will be returned out to about the 33-yard line. There is a flag down. We welcome all of you who were watching ESPN2 earlier in the day. We are
offside
in Lincoln, Nebraska.
On the kicking team, number 54. The 5-yard penalty will be added on to the end of the run, and it's a first down.
You just missed a sensational play by Southern Mississippi to get back in this ball game, as Lampley went 100 yards on the kickoff return, cut the lead to 14-7. And this is the first position after that.
And this is a place where Nebraska last year flinched a couple of times, where they got into good games with teams, especially their first year in the Big Ten, and they slugged it out for 2 or 3 quarters, and then a bad thing would happen, and they'd fold up a little bit. So this is a good challenge early for Nebraska and the coaching staff to see if that offseason leadership work is going to pay off.
Abdullah on the sweep, gets the corner to midfield. Abdullah out of Homewood, Alabama. Only had 42 carries all last year for 150 yards, as Burkhead was the workhorse.
You know the problem with that kickoff return? Your defense didn't get a rest. You don't want to, you wouldn't give it back. But with this heat and after what Nebraska did on their first couple of drives, these guys might be a little tougher than.
Very true, but they're not going to give it back to take a breather, are they?
No, they're not.
Check in with Janine Edwards. Janine?
Well, yes, guys, exactly. One of their leading linebackers, Alan Howes, he told me that they were concerned about fatigue because they don't have a lot of depth. He came off the field after that last series and sat and hung his head, but it was mainly because of mistakes being made. DC Tommy West was livid, screaming at guys for the second series in a row for misreads.
Martinez double pumps a couple of times and then uses his arm strength to rifle one in there to Onunwa, who already has 1 touchdown catch and takes this one to the 26 for a first down.
Taylor Martinez reset the ball. He was looking for Tyler Woolenwaber down the field, one of the fastest receivers for Nebraska. And when he reset his feet, he couldn't quite pull the trigger, but Woolenwaber had run by the safety for a touchdown.
Burkhead back in off left tackle. And he picks up 9.
Watches Martinez. He looks to pull it, and then he pulls it down. He just didn't trust the long throw because Woolenwaber goes right by the safety Cotton, who had turned around, and Cotton's having a rough afternoon so far.
The thing I thought was really impressive about that replay is he never lost his technique. He always had his front foot where it was supposed to be, pointing toward his target. Fullback trying to get the first down, and Morrow does.
Hey, Mike, you make a really good point. When you watch a quarterback, and I tell people all the time, if you want to see a quarterback with perfect footwork, watch Peyton Manning. Because what he does is the feet shuffle. There's no big steps. They just shuffle. The cleats stay close to the ground so that when you go to throw, if you have to pull the trigger, your base is already set. What Taylor Martinez was doing was he would go to take a run step last year when things would go wrong, because that's what he wanted to do, and now he just looks like a different guy.
And this time, pressure, and it's from the all-star Jamie Collins, who makes his presence known coming in to get Taylor Martinez, the young man who had such a brilliant season last year and somehow was left off of all the all-conference teams.
It is unreal that Jamie Collins did not get first or second team Conference USA last year. He only led the league with almost 20 tackles for loss. I guess that wasn't good enough.
And that was 10th in the country. Nebraska backed up for a rare time. Martinez on the keeper and gets out of bounds at around the 12. They need to reach the 3-yard line for a first down. Kenny Bell, the wide receiver, throwing a good block on the perimeter.
Martinez, part of the problem last year with his technique was injuries. He had a right ankle injury in 2010 against Missouri that never felt good last year. He had both of his big toes. He was suffering from turf toe. So another element they can bring in besides his improved throwing technique. Remember, he's almost always one of the fastest guys on the field. So that element can come in a little more as the season goes on as well.
3rd and 9 here. Abdullah is the running back. 3 wide receivers to the far side. Martinez looking that way and throws underneath, and it's going to be shy of a first down, but breaking the tackle and scoring is Anunwa. Now they're going to say it's down at the 8-yard line. Was he out of bounds?
Offensive pass interference, number 80. It's a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. We replay, 3rd down.
Kenny Bell may have given him a screen to get him open.
Ooh, I don't know if he's down. Now, the reason they can let this play continue, even though the whistle blows, it doesn't look to me like they missed that call. But
yeah, they sure did.
The problem is, though, there was a Southern Miss defender standing there, Darren Wilson, who pulled up. If there wasn't a Southern Miss defender in the area, and there wasn't a penalty, of course, that could have been a touchdown. But Bell ran over a defensive back, didn't even try to fake like he wasn't trying to screen him.
Now it's 3rd and 24. 4-man rush. Martinez straight down the middle on a post. A little bit too high.
Martinez's pass intended for number 6, Tim Marlowe, incomplete.
Tim Marlowe was the intended receiver at the goal line.
Marlowe looks like he may have hurt his right arm on this, but good pressure. That time didn't quite set his feet. A little bit of pressure, something that Martinez struggled with last year, but there's Marlowe with that right arm hanging like he may have injured his shoulder.
Pressure will really be a test of his technique, whether he can keep his feet in the right place.
He had time to set his feet, but he didn't quite do it on that throw.
Maher will try one from 44, well within his range. He only missed one under 50 a year ago. But not that one.
With 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in the
Maher comes up empty, as does the Nebraska offense. Tough snap, but they got it down. Good hold by Jace Dean, but the kick is no good. It's 14-7 Nebraska. The Cornhuskers have racked up 205 yards in total offense to only 41 for Southern Mississippi. But it's only a 7-point ball game thanks to that brilliant kick return by Tracy Lampley. And now Southern Mississippi takes over at the 27-yard line.
Boy, a sustained drive would be just what the doctor ordered for the defense of Southern Miss to get a little rest.
Chris Campbell still in there as the starting back. And they'll give it to Justin Sims on one of those speed sweeps. Cameron Meredith made the tackle for the Huskers.
Not a great snap, but you mentioned the great hold. Watch the left foot. It's going to land right there of Maher as he goes to plant. Dean gets this ball down, gets out of the way, laces forward. His left foot, remember, this is one of those turf fields that has the little rubber pellets. Maher's left foot slid just enough for him to hit a knuckler instead of a true ball.
They come with a blitz after showing it. Campbell with a complete pass will go out of bounds at the 33-yard line. They need to reach the 37 for a first down. Desmond Johnson with the catch out of the backfield.
And with Campbell, the quarterback, being able to run, this feels like a pass down and distance, but if you're Nebraska, somebody needs to stay home and make sure they have an eye on Campbell.
He ran the triple option in high school, so he's certainly capable of doing it. Love to get a couple of first downs, if nothing else, on this drive. Campbell on a little half roll, still can't find anybody. Now throws back to Lampley. Lampley, great move to get another couple of yards, and he's out to the 46 for a first down. And anytime he can touch it, that's exactly what the offense wants.
Excellent job by Chris Campbell that time as he rolled to his right. You know, when we were talking about Taylor Martinez yesterday with the coaches, you were asking about, does he know where to go when things fall apart? Right. And they said, yeah, he's making progress. Well, that was Campbell, knowing Lampley was going to be there, and he just bought a little more time until he could find him clear across the field. Nice job.
Which is the reason they named him as a starter, Ed, because he had the better grasp of everything that was going on. Here's Campbell on the keeper, midfield, not out of bounds. He may not have the skills that the guys behind him do, the physical talent, but he understands the offense. He's a really good leader. Ricky Lloyd, who we're supposed to see later, had a terrific high school passing career, and Anthony Alford, who will be coming in later, is already a pro baseball player and one of the best athletes around. He was recruited by everybody before he announced he was going to play baseball. Johnson straight up the middle and a good run down to the Nebraska 41-yard line.
You mentioned this offensive line for Southern Mississippi, and that time Joe Duhon did a really nice job pulling around, and he had a great block in the Conference USA Championship. Knocked down a safety, put them ahead 35-21 against unbeaten Houston. That one kind of blew the lid off.
Hester comes in, he'll get the carry, picks up a couple. Well, the only one who is not a veteran is the right guard, number 77, Ed Preston. But he's got the best nickname, the Runaway Beer Truck. So he leads in that category.
I would imagine that's because when he's running, you kind of want to get out of his way, I would suspect, is where that comes from.
I think so.
Well, you're starting to see this offensive line show up a little bit. They're starting to get some inside runs. Nice variety of offense here. Offensive coordinator Steve Buckley took over after the spring when Ricky Bussell, who was the offensive coordinator, was having some health issues, so they made a change. And Buckley calling a nice game, changing things up a lot.
And they're pretty happy with where they are right now. They're going to let the first quarter clock expire down by only 7 here at Nebraska.
ESPN's College Football on ABC, brought to you by Chevy. From kickoff to the last yard, Chevy runs deep. The Home Depot, more saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beers, sports.
Welcome back to Lincoln, Nebraska. Southern Mississippi with the football. Down 7 against the Cornhuskers, but driving. They have reached the Nebraska 39-yard line. Behind Chris Campbell in his first career collegiate start. The first of 3 Southern Miss quarterbacks we are expected to see. Campbell on the option. There was no option there as Baker Steinkooler was right there to make the stop. We'll check in with Robert Flores. Robert.
Hey, Mike, Taco Bell studio update. The Florida Gators have won their last 22 season openers, but Bowling Green goes 12 plays, 89 yards, capped off by John Pettigrew bowling his way into the end zone. They're up 7-0 on number 23 Florida, second quarter.
It is not a happy swamp, I would imagine. Campbell with time, throws underneath, flanker screen. And it's the tailback, Jeremy Hester, with a first down to the 27-yard line. Very well-designed play.
Nebraska had this completely snuffed out, and it's a missed tackle by Cameron Meredith. Watch Meredith as he comes out. Good job reading it, but he never broke down. He was heavy on his feet. He was leaning forward. As Stafford loses his helmet, he should have to go off the field. Remember the new rule, if you lose your helmet, you have to go off. But Meredith, just bad technique on the tackle there.
Campbell on the keeper. Puts his head down and gets inside the 25. The helmet rule is another one of these safety issues. If your helmet comes off, the player has to come out the next play, unless it's a penalty, unless it's ripped off. What they're trying to do is prevent players from having their helmets so loose that they come off all the time and put them in danger. I think it's a great thing.
And that's been a trend over the last several years where players are loosening their chin strap. They're not putting as much air in their helmet, so it feels more comfortable, and it is awfully dangerous when those helmets come off with those pads flying around and everybody else has their helmet on. I agree. I think it's a good rule.
2nd and 7. Back in the day, if your helmet came off, your ears came with them. Campbell, too high. Intended for Marquise Triplett.
I played with a linebacker in the NFL named Tyrone Stowe. Tyrone was the hardest hitting guy I ever played with. He said he learned how to hit at Rutgers because they had a running back named Ironhead Hayward that he used to have to tackle in practice. And Tyrone would come off after a defensive series and they'd have to use pliers to take his chin strap off. His helmet was so tight. And that's just changing over time. And I think it was a good job by the Rules Commission. They counted the number of helmets that came off last year, and they said it's just too many.
Yeah, I agree with you. Play 11 coming on this drive, and a big one. 3rd and long from the 25-yard line for Chris Campbell and the Golden Eagle offense. Campbell set, throws, complete. 10-5, touchdown. Dominique Sullivan, who had 32 catches a year ago, but has been plagued by drops. Didn't drop that one, and look at this. The Golden Eagles within a point.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sullivan is one of those guys, they watch him practice and they say, what a talent. Then he drops a couple of balls. They just scratch their head.
Kick is good.
Campbell was 5 out of 6 on the drive for 54 yards.
This is the second missed tackle we've seen by a defensive back. That was Andrew Green, who took a bad angle and couldn't finish off the play.
Well, it was supposed to be a quarterback rotation, as you see the last two guys who teamed up for that Southern Miss touchdown. Campbell was supposed to start, followed by 2 other guys as they have battled throughout camp. You have to wonder right now, would you like to abandon the rotation and stick with the guy who has just done a tremendous job here? Kenny Bell on the return, seam up the middle. Kenny Bell to the 39, 40-yard line. Take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, for Nebraska fans, they have to feel awfully good about how Taylor Martinez has thrown the ball. The one pressure he had, he didn't quite set his feet. But when he gets protection, he is looking really sharp. Looks like a totally different guy than last year. But I think you bring up a great point, Mike. I don't think you go with rotation. You come into a place like this, you get a great kick return, and then Campbell puts together a nice drive there where he's running the ball efficiently. He's obviously throwing it efficiently. I think you have to ride Campbell the rest of this ball game unless things fall apart.
I would wholeheartedly endorse that idea. Martinez on a little half roll and throws. Complete to Woolenwammer, makes his first catch.
I don't remember one throw last year for Taylor Martinez that had that much zip on it.
Right.
This ball is just, it's flying out of his hand. He looks like a different guy than he did at the end of last season.
Spot the ball at the 49-yard line. Abdullah hit in the backfield and is gang tackled as they will mark the ball down at the 50. It'll be 3rd and 1.
And this is one thing, throwing on the run. He has not been very good at this in the past, but you can see the problem he had coming into this year was he never knew how to work his upper body. That time you saw him clear his left shoulder, and it was a very natural throwing motion.
Abdullah gets the first down to the Golden Eagle 48-yard line.
You know, I chatted with Steve Calhoun, the quarterback's coach that Taylor Martinez worked with during the offseason, and that was one of the things he had to do is get his upper body in sync. And he told him he had 3 cameras, one on his left shoulder, one on his belly button, one on his right shoulder, and they had to go pop, pop, pop and take a picture of the target. Right now, cameras are all lining up well.
Abdullah stuffed the line of scrimmage. Alan Howes, the middle linebacker, is right there. They have no linebackers on this team who have ever started a game, but Howes has had an awful lot of playing time throughout his career. Martinez this time wants the flanker screen. Turner, the converted quarterback with a lot of speed, trying to get outside and turns nothing into 9 yards. Jamal Turner.
Turner's a guy who maybe expectations were a little high for last year, making the transition from high school quarterback to wide receiver. Very explosive guy. Coach talked about how he's really started to pick up the nuances of that position lately.
The fullback, Merrill, gains maybe a half a yard, and Jamie Collins.
And where is Rex Burkhead? Where is Rex Burkhead in this situation? I know you want to get some guys some time, but isn't that the type of run? And Burkhead has 1 carry since that touchdown run. I know you want to get some guys in, but short yardage, isn't that what Burkhead does?
I think that's the question we have to keep asking, because I don't think this will be the normal rotation that we would expect. Did he get enough for the first down? And he did. I mean, after all, Abdullah's 185 pounds, 5'9". He is not, your workhorse 3rd and inches back.
And if there's one thing that I've seen from Rex Burkhead throughout his career, an efficient run. All you have to do is pick up enough for the first down. So call it a successful play, but just a little confusing why Burkhead, unless he's injured, and he's over there with his helmet on, has the towel. Maybe he hurt himself.
And instead of Burkhead coming back in, it's
previous play is under review. The ruling on the field is the runner made the forward progress spot beyond the line to gain.
So the review officials want to take a look at the spot here, but Braylon Hurd, who was listed at the 3rd tailback, very fast kid.
He is one.
Look,
Ohio. Sorry, look at that left knee. He's got ice on that left knee, and it's starting to look like Burkhead's day might be over. Well, it's not indisputable video evidence. It sure does appear like Merrow does not get there. But again, because the camera is not right on that yellow line, of course, it's impossible to have a camera at every angle to make sure you get this.
However, watch where he has the ball. He's got it in his right arm, doesn't he? After the hit. That never got to that line.
Well, I think what they're going to say, though, Mike, is it's not indisputable because of the angle. I think that this should stand as a first down. But what a big loss if Burkhead has an injury that might cost him significant
After review,
time.
the ruling on the field stands. The runner made the first down.
We mentioned earlier, Nebraska was really happy that they had depth behind Burkhead. But that's what they were happy about. They had depth behind Burkhead. Not that somebody could take his place.
It's a guy who's an NFL-level running back early in the season. Standing on the sideline with ice on his knee after a huge touchdown run to start the game.
Any kind of a decent year, he's going to finish 2nd on the all-time rushing charts. Abdullah with the carry gets inside the 30, and there have been a couple of pretty good fair to middling running backs at Nebraska over the years. Tarek Wright made that last tackle for the Golden Eagles.
Now you're going to start seeing them have to get into their depth. You may see Amani Cross, the big 225-pound true freshman.
This pass complete down to the 19-yard line. And it's the second tight end, Kyler Reed. He's in there when they have the two tight end formations normally.
This defense for Southern Miss looks like their tank is starting to get empty early in this game. There are a lot of big bodies with hands on hips and huffing and puffing.
Spotted at the 19, 1st and 10 for Nebraska. Abdullah straight up the middle. Got another first down. It'll be 1st and goal from the 8.
Nice block by the left guard, Sung-Hun Choi. Watch the push that he gets with the inside technique right past the hole. What a nice block.
Abdullah. Not this time. Tried to get to the corner. The pursuit caught up, and Khalid Wilson was in on the tackle along with Francis Sconey, the backup middle linebacker. He had the first to turn him back inside.
Well, Choi had such a nice block on the play before. That time he got beat to the inside. His man made the running back bounce, and of course there was Wilson.
2nd and goal now from the 9. Martinez looks for the end zone. An easy touchdown. As easy a touchdown as he's ever going to get to Jake Long out of Elkhorn, Nebraska. Wide open, standing in the end zone. You wouldn't think a guy who's 6'4", 240 could be invisible, could you? That's the 9th different receiver that Taylor Martinez is connected with today. Maher for the point after. And Nebraska, after being stunned here, takes the lead again. And Taylor Martinez, what a difference a year makes.
ESPN's College Football on ABC, brought to you by Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich. And the Venture Card from Capital One. Earn double miles you can actually use.
Nebraska has had some pretty good I-backs. Roy Halou Jr., Amon Green, Mike Rozier. In fact, Rozier, 11 straight games with over 100 yards rushing, the school's all-time leading rusher, and he was the 1983 Heisman Trophy winner. Jake Long, whose brother is the starting right guard, as that kickoff goes out of bounds, and that's a big break for Southern Miss as they are trying to avoid Tracy Lampley, and that's probably a pretty good idea. Now for today's Aflac trivia question, what team did Mike Rozier begin his professional career with? You're going to get 2 points for this one. This is not an easy question.
The Scottish Claymores. Oh, no, that's NFL Europe. That was after his time.
The Scottish Claymores.
My guess was the LA Express, and I was wrong. We get to guess it the night before in the production.
Golden Eagles take over at the 35-yard line. And Campbell remains in at quarterback. After his early success, this is Desmond Johnson, the tailback, who was forced back by Cameron Meredith. And news from the sideline, here's Janine Edwards.
Well, guys, after a lot of speculation, we just now got confirmation that running back Rex Burkhead is indeed done for today. He's got a medial collateral sprain of his knee. And also wide receiver Tim Marlowe is done for the day. He, they believe, has a separated shoulder. He is in the locker room being x-rayed.
Boy, that's just horrible news for the Cornhuskers. Not only for today, but it could be the long-term devastating news. Campbell with good time, throws incomplete, intended for triplet. Looked like it was behind him.
The question for that MCL sprain, which I've had one of those before, is if there was any damage to the interior of the knee. Did you knock anything loose? Because that's when you start looking at potentially needing some type of scope to clean it out. So if you're a Cornhusker fan, you're hoping that Burkhead just has a slight sprain.
Yeah, the word sprain is good news, comparatively at least. 3rd and 11 for Southern Mississippi with 8:31 to go in the half. Blitz coming. Compton straight up the middle. Will Compton. Well, that was a nice stunt up front to get him free, wasn't it?
It's something that defensive coordinator John Papuchis told us they're going to bring more pressure. And that's just a absolutely blown pass protection by the running back Desmond Johnson. The defensive end, Ankra, went to the inside, so the replacement guy is Compton. Good blitz call, but the running back Desmond Johnson just completely missed that his assignment switched and didn't see 51 replacing the defensive end on the contained rush.
Peter Bayham, the senior punter, is on to kick to Amir Abdullah, who waits at his 38-yard line. Driven back by a good kick to the 30. Dangerous in space. Upended at the 45. A 48-yard punt and a 15-yard return. 7:32 to go in the half. It's a 7-point game. Wednesdays this fall on ABC, they found their dream home. So what if the neighbors are aliens? The Neighbors, a new comedy, premieres Wednesday, September 26th at 9:30, 8:30 Central on ABC. It is very hot here, over 90 degrees. We're told 15 members of the band have already been treated for heat-related symptoms. Martinez had to wait a long time for Jamal Turner on that flanker sweep, and Jamie Collins was right there.
I'm not so sure that's how Tim Beck and the offensive staff drew that up. Martinez was standing there going, where's the guy I'm supposed to hand this to?
Yeah, when you can count to 3 while he's holding the ball out, you're right.
The speed sweep is supposed to be a little speedier.
2nd and 13. Martinez has Braylon Hurd with him this time, 5'11" sophomore. Martinez with time, floats it out and just overthrows Kenny Bell. Even though he missed, that was a pretty good throw.
Yeah, but he fell back on that one. You know, this is a habit he got into last year on these long throws, and he's been not very good. Last year, his percentage was terrible on long throws. It's not as bad as it was last year, but that was his problem last year. Fell back away from the long throw, did it a touch there, didn't quite get up on his left foot.
3rd and long. Martinez changing the place. Southern Miss defenders creeping toward the line. Here they come with a 5-man rush. The pass underneath and complete down to the 30-yard line. Good catch. Tyler Evans makes his first catch.
Look how much different Martinez looked on that one than the last throw. That's a long throw down the field to Evans. And you could see on that replay him step right into it. Good target, good throw. A little behind him, but ball got there on a line. Allowed Evans to come back and make a play on it.
First down, back to the ground. Abdullah comes back into the ball game. He's knocked out by Collins.
It's something you can't look at enough because they're going to be looking at it a ton. You see that step through with the right foot. It's almost like Gary Player. Remember Gary Player's golf swing?
Sure.
Used to step through with that right foot so he could make sure that he transferred all of his weight to his left foot. You teach the same thing to a quarterback. If you don't have pressure, you've got to step through, get that weight on the left foot. Nice job.
This has to feel so good for Tyler Martinez to be able to take this, what he was taught by his quarterback guru this summer and at the Peyton Manning or at the Manning family passing camp, to take it to the field. Locks this one up. Could be an interference penalty. Nothing. Kyler Reed Reed, the tight end.
I think that's a good no call. That was Kyler Reed working. Well, that one's flip a coin. I think you keep the flag in your pocket. I think that was the right no call.
Well, they did. Four-man rush. Martinez flushed, in trouble, throws back against the grain, completed it to Abdullah, and Abdullah taken down by Francisconi. Going to be short of the first down. Let's see if we see the field goal unit, and we will.
When Kyler Reed got up from that, Kyler Reed, who had some injuries last year with hamstring and an ankle injury, he got up slow after that. So there's a lot of Nebraska guys taking some dings early in this game. If you're just joining us, Rex Burkhead, all-conference running back, is out with a sprained left knee. They've already lost Tim Marlowe, one of their senior receivers, with an injured left shoulder.
Maher will come on for a 41-yard try. He missed from 44. Only the second kick inside of 50 yards that he's missed in 2 seasons.
Nebraska. That's their second.
And Nebraska will use its second timeout with exactly 5 minutes to go in the quarter, trying to boost their lead over Southern Miss. We asked you the trivia question from Aflac. What team did Mike Rozier begin his professional career with? We told you it was a tough one. It's in the USFL, the Pittsburgh Maulers in 1984.
And
I am not an expert on Mauler history.
And I would guess over half of our audience has no idea who the Pittsburgh Maulers were from the USFL.
One would guess.
You're going old school there. Did you see the 30 for 30 doc on the USFL?
Yes.
With the interview?
Yes.
Of Donald Trump, that was all time,
wasn't it ever? Maher,
boy,
for 2. This is the guy who couldn't miss from inside 50 last year. He's missed 2 today, and the lead is still 7. Nebraska letting Southern Miss hang around. This is the play where All-American candidate Rex Burkhead hurt his left knee. You'll see him when he gets up very slowly, very gingerly. He will start to limp more and more as he goes back toward the Nebraska bench. He has not played since. They have told us through Janine Edwards that he is done for the day. Anthony Alford is the new quarterback for Southern Mississippi. He was recruited by everybody until they told him he was going to play professional baseball in the summer. Most teams backed off. Not all. This is Johnson stutter stepping his way out across the 35. But Alford told everybody he was going to play baseball, so most of the schools backed off. But South Carolina, Nebraska, and LSU continued to recruit him. And because he told Major League Baseball teams that he was going to play football, a lot of them backed off. And still, he was a third-round draft choice by the Blue Jays, got an enormous signing bonus. He must be a tremendous negotiator.
He told them, don't draft me. I want to play quarterback in college. But they did. He ended up getting first-round money, and he cut his work back during the summer. He only had to spend 2 weeks with the pro team this summer. Didn't have to spend a lot of time away from the field.
Smart kid. Can't find a receiver, and he's flushed. Throws back against the grain and dropped by Johnson. Boy, had him wide open. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike and Ed, I just spent a few moments back in the tunnel speaking with Rex Burkhead's parents. And his dad, Rick, told me they are on pins and needles. They're nervous wreck. They're not allowed in the locker room. And he said, we're not getting a whole lot of information right now. He said, I'm hoping that they're just being overly cautious. He said he played fullback. He said he knows football is tough. And meanwhile, his wife was hugging and consoling wide receiver Tim Marlowe's girlfriend, who is beside herself and in tears. So a lot of emotion back in that tunnel on the Nebraska side.
Janine, we all know it's tougher to watch than it is to play. Johnson out of the backfield, dragged out of bounds as he crossed the 40-yard line.
I don't know, Mike. I had to block Reggie White a few times. I think that might have been a little harder.
In that case, yeah. How did that go for you?
I was 1 for 2 because they only moved him inside occasionally.
That's better percentage than most guys have. Big third down here. Southern Miss trying to keep the football at the 4-minute mark of the first half.
And I am a little surprised that Southern Miss brought the freshman in with 4 minutes left in the half. Chris Campbell looked like he was doing well. You're in this ball game. I know this young man has a lot of ability, but the way Campbell is running the offense, I'm just not so sure at this point in the first half, this is when you send in the true freshman.
We've got a timeout in a 7-point game in Lincoln. Alford is a freshman, 6 feet tall, 210 pounds, coached by Steve Buckley, who is now the offensive coordinator in high school. Buckley, when he got this job, said, I don't want you coming to Southern Miss. You go to one of the big schools where you belong. But he felt a tremendous loyalty to Buckley, came here, and he's got a chance to be a starter. Big third down. Can they keep the drive alive? Alford, and that's what made him such a special player in high school, his ability to make people miss.
And Steve Buckley, and talking to him and Ellis Johnson, all of their quarterbacks, Lloyd, Campbell, and Alford, can run a little bit, but Alford is the guy who's the best athlete of the bunch. And talk about trial by fire to come in at the end of the half on the road against Nebraska. It's a lot to ask.
You're not giving him an easy slot. Hester still on his feet. First down in Nebraska territory to the 42. Will Compton makes the tackle.
The left side of this offensive line. Steinkühler gets knocked right down the middle, and the tackle Weaver gets a good block on Compton.
Hester, only a couple. Boy, would this be a huge drive if they can get any points out of this.
And now Southern Miss going a little faster. The clock, it's okay right now, but you've got to be careful as it starts to melt away.
Alford on the keeper. Dives across the 30 to the 29.
You know
First
what?
down, the clock will stop while they move the chains.
One of the big questions coming in, we talked so much about Taylor Martinez, was its front seven for Nebraska that was banged up last year and couldn't stop the run. Well, so far, they're having their struggles this afternoon.
Boy, big hit there by Harvey Jackson. The safety came up and just laid the wood to the ball carrier.
And I tell you, it's John Papuchis and that defensive staff realizing a freshman quarterback's in. They're going to run it. So now they're starting to bring their safeties up. Now, if you're Steve Buckley, the offensive coordinator, if Alford's going to be your guy, let's see his arm. How about a play fake and maybe try to get one over the top if that's the way Nebraska's going to play with their safeties.
Clock running at 2:03. Four-man rush. Alford sits in the pocket. A post underthrown and incomplete. Intended for Triplett.
You have to put some air on that ball. You had a trailer on Triplett. And this is just a freshman. Not quite confident. Everything's there. That's a poorly thrown ball. That's a walk-in touchdown. Good call by the offensive staff. Just missed the throw.
You're going to have some concern right now about the Nebraska defense.
If I'm Nebraska defensively, I'd be really concerned about a wide receiver screen here out to the left side with those three receivers.
3rd and 8, blitz coming. Instead, they go back the other way. It's dropped again. Hester. Boy, they had that set up beautifully. They were looking the same direction you were, Ed, to the left side. They came back to the right, and it would have worked.
One-on-one coverage on that side, so you're hoping to get... Oh, boy, you hit that, and you walk into the end zone.
Look at that wall of blockers.
And a legal low block that time on Jason Ankra. And I'm afraid that Nebraska may have another injured player. And this is a guy in Ankra who last year the coaches were talking about, he was just doing his job. He didn't want to make mistakes, and we've seen the light come on since the Iowa game at the end of the regular season. It was a legal block. You're allowed to obviously block below the waist as you're out in the open field, but the block was thrown right as Ankra was planting his leg, and I'm not so sure he didn't. Watch. Oh, boy, yeah. Again, legal block that time by number 77, Ed Preston, but unfortunately, it was right as Anchor put his weight on that left leg, but looks like he's going to be okay.
Looks okay.
That looked dangerous.
But the middle of the field, from hash mark to hash mark, was empty.
They had the call they wanted. It looked like they were going up to the top side. They came back to the weak side.
And now Bayham will come on to try a long field goal, 45 yards.
We should bank that.
Excuse me, Corey Costa.
Should bank that 2 missed touchdowns in a row at the end of the ball game.
Acosta in his career, 2 for 2. That one just had enough to get there, but it was inside the goalposts, and Southern Miss scores again. They salvage a field goal out of this drive, and it's 21-17. They have to feel so good about themselves right now when we check in with Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, AT&T All-America Player of the Week nominee, Ohio quarterback Tyler Tettleton, leading the Bobcats to an upset win today against Penn State. 324 passing yards, threw 2 touchdowns, ran for another. He is the son of former Major Leaguer Mickey Tettleton. You can text VOTE to 34763. The winning player revealed Thursday during the ESPN football game.
And Penn State's strength was going to be its defense this year. They were carved up pretty well. How about Le'Veon Bell? 44 catches, 210 yards. What's lost on that stat sheet, he caught 6 more balls. He had 50 touches in that game.
He kind of looked like a varsity versus the JV at times last night.
Yeah.
Big, powerful guy with some agility, had a leap over run, good out of the backfield, and he's got those long arms where when he goes to stiff arm guys, they can't get into him. And unfortunately for Nebraska, their top running back, Rex Burkhead, now watching him from the sidelines with a sprained MCL on his left knee.
I hope Bell got to sleep in today. This is Kenny Bell, returning for Nebraska with 1:37 to go.
And now with 1 timeout, 1:37 left. I always think people hang on to that timeout too long. If you get a play that is not in front of the sticks and everybody's milling around, do not be afraid to take that timeout, especially when you start getting inside of 40 seconds. So just realize there's a lot of ways to stop the clock in college football. Out of bounds, first down for them to move the chains, but don't be afraid to use that. You don't want to waste 20 or 30 seconds to get people back to the line of scrimmage.
First down is the biggest difference between college football and the NFL. You get that first down, and it's an automatic stoppage. Good job by Anunwa to get out of bounds and stop the clock. It takes teams usually 12, 13, 14 seconds on a pass of 15 yards to get downfield and set up shop again. But if it's a first down, the clock isn't running during that time. Minute and a half to go, and Taylor Martinez has acquitted himself beautifully in this game so far. That one had a little wobble to it, and it's incomplete.
Didn't quite come off cleanly. You could see Martinez kind of hopping into that. Just wasn't quite comfortable with this throw. Let's watch his feet. Yeah, you could see that shuffle. He just wasn't quite sure where he wanted to go with the ball.
7 out of 9 on 3rd down. Now it's 3rd and 3.
I think maybe quarterback draw here.
Well, you might want to think first down just to keep it alive and not give it right back to the Golden Eagles. Martinez quick out instead. That will be a first down. That was Anunwa makes another catch.
Anunwa, a guy who's always been big and physical, worked very hard to improve his speed during the offseason, and with Tim Marlowe out with a shoulder injury, starting to step up.
5 catches for Quincy Anunwa. Blitz coming. Martinez falling back, completes it to Turner. Jamal Turner, the speedster, inside the 30-yard line. A gain of 36.
One thing this offensive line did not do well at times last year was protection. As a matter of fact, in the second half against South Carolina in the bowl game, they got dominated. Of course, Melvin Ingram was just a dominant player, but that time, an excellent job by the offensive line and Abdullah, the running back, picking up the blitz.
Martinez throwing for the corner. Touchdown! Stephen Osborne with a catch, 29 yards. I'm not sure how he stayed in bounds.
Now the question is, did he have possession when his feet were on the ground? Because, right? Yes, he does. They may review this, but that would stand under any review.
Pretty good coverage by Alex Walters, but he couldn't prevent the completion.
And how many times did you see Taylor Martinez last year overthrow that ball?
Yeah. Martinez now 18 out of 23, 247 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that's the first half.
It's an excellent throw. Give your guy a chance, and Osborne at 6'4". If you overthrow it, it's incomplete. But that is great coverage by Walters, who was, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, questionable to play, but excellent coverage that time. You've got a 6'4" receiver. But if Martinez can throw like this through the entire season, this offense is going to be awfully hard to stop. Now,
they will.
If the Cornhuskers have their eye on the Big Ten prize, their defense is going to have to come along a little bit to finish that off. But boy, just a different guy. Last year, Martinez would have fallen away from that ball. His feet would have been together. That time, good weight transfer, very accurate throw.
How happy do you think he feels inside for all the criticism that he has taken during his career here at Nebraska? Of course, he's in fishbowl. He's under a microscope 24 hours a day because Nebraska football is it.
And he's a guy from Southern California, so when he came here, no one realizes if you're not from here what it's quite like. And he admitted to us yesterday, it got tough at times. He stopped reading the newspaper. He doesn't read anything written about him anymore. But boy, has he improved.
Sims showing a burst of speed, takes it across the 20. 40.4% on throws of over 15 yards. Today, 6 out of 7. And you can just see it in not only his mechanics, which we have talked about, and the way the ball gets to the receiver, but just in the bounce in his step as he's coming out to take the next snap.
I don't think people realized how unhealthy his lower body was at times last year. With that right ankle and both big toes, he was fighting turf toe. So not only was it hard to work technique as the season went on, but I think he lost a lot of confidence in how he could run the ball. Just everything kind of fell apart.
Alford stays in a quarterback. He will now have 58 seconds to run the offense here and just give straight ahead to Johnson.
Well, if I'm Nebraska,
Southern Mississippi may decide, let's just take it to the locker room.
Now Johnson will have to come out of the game because he lost his helmet there.
By the way, the 247 yards that Martinez has thrown for in the first half would qualify as the third best game of his career. Not half, game. So that's how much he has improved since last season.
Is June Jones the new offensive coordinator in Nebraska?
1 minute.
No, nor will he be.
So please run 10 seconds off the clock, set it at 35. It'll be second down.
Now they have run off 10 seconds off the clock. The defense has the option of that if a helmet comes off. They can take the 10-second run off or have the player go out.
And Ellis Johnson could buy it back because he has a timeout. Unless they do just want to go in at halftime, which is kind of what looks like they're happening.
Let's make a deal or college football game.
Yeah, no reason to buy it back if you just go run it out.
Alford showing you his speed as the flag is down back at the 26-yard line.
Holding on the offense, number 52. It's a 10-yard penalty, and we'll replay second down.
Just 2 races left until the chase. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr. are locked in. Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and Jeff Gordon trying for that wild card position. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in Atlanta tomorrow night at 6:30 on ESPN.
Well, if you're going to take it to the house, if you're Southern Miss, just take a knee. Get a ball ripped out, a turnover. You've got a freshman quarterback.
To me, it's a question of what are the odds we're going to get an 85-yard run and what are the odds we can make a mistake?
You know where I stand on that. Yes. I'd be taking a knee. But for Nebraska fans, nice to see Ankra back out there. Looks like he has no ill effects from the left knee that looked like it gave way a bit on that screen a while ago.
Nebraska will take an 11-point lead to the locker room, but I don't think this first half turned out the way they had anticipated it would. There's Bo Pelini downstairs with Janine.
Hey, Bo, first of all, your offense took a big hit with the injury to Rex Burkhead. What does your ground game lose without him in there?
Well, Rex is a great player, but we got other capable backs. He's going to be okay. It's nothing long-term, and he just can't finish the game today. And our offense played really well in the first half. Really played well. We got to pick up our special teams, and we'll be fine.
247 yards in the air. What are you seeing from Taylor Martinez today that's impressing you?
He's playing well. He's efficient, and he's doing a good job making really good decisions.
All right. Thanks, Bo.
Thanks.
Thank you, Janine. At the half, our score is Nebraska 28, Southern Mississippi 17. When we come back to the studio, we'll catch you up on everything at halftime right after these messages.
Here's a U-Local Husker fan photo sponsored by First National Bank.
This is Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week.
Now back on my A-game, I'm focused. For me, this is just another victory. Accepted, I'm stronger than the odds now mentally.
Money people say, it's a new day. It's a new day.
Welcome back to Lincoln, Nebraska, where we have a 28-17 halftime score. The Cornhuskers on top of the Golden Eagles of Southern Mississippi. Welcome back to a sold-out Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham, it's great to have you with us. Glad you could join us this afternoon for what has been an extremely interesting ball game. And we have what we think is a very vital possession coming up.
The way Nebraska's playing offensively, especially Taylor Martinez, I think if Southern Miss doesn't get a score here, this could start getting out of hand. So I'd want to go back to Chris Campbell if I were Southern Miss at quarterback. He looked like the guy that moved the ball more efficiently. Alfred, I think, is the guy they want to go to in the future. But I think for this ball game, I think Chris Campbell should be the guy for this drive. I'm not sure if they don't score on that drive if Campbell's at quarterback. He looked like he was in a rhythm. So we'll see who comes out. But I don't want to put too much on this drive. But you feel like if they don't get it done here, it may start to fall apart for him.
And the story of Taylor Martinez being able to throw so well has been a remarkable first half. And now let's take the opportunity to check in with Janine Edwards. Janine?
Well, Mike and Ed, you're just talking about the Southern Miss quarterbacks. Ellis Johnson just told me just because of the way the game unfolded, they weren't able to get to Ricky Lloyd in the quarterback position. But he says, yes, he will be coming out here shortly. He will play in this half. Ellis is pleased, very pleased with how his quarterbacks are handling the situation. He said, we've executed just about as well as we can offensively. He said the problem has been on defense. Missed assignments, confusion, poor tackling. He said Nebraska has just taken our physicality away, and we have to find a way to get that back.
All right, thanks, Janine. Lampley and Sims are deep. Sims will take a knee, and they'll take it out to the 25 under that new rule this year. Now let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary here in Lincoln.
Big run, 57 yards for Burkhead. But after that, what looked like just a vanilla tackle, he goes out with an MCL sprain on his left knee. If you didn't hear Bo Pelini at halftime, Janine said it's not a bad injury. He just can't finish this game. But Taylor Martinez has been the story, Mike, as you mentioned, has just been sensational throwing the ball. And Chris Campbell also looked very good. I know they want to get guys rotating, but I'm not so sure. I wouldn't just ride Campbell out and see what he can do here in the second half.
Well, he'll start the third quarter. Johnson, the tailback, gets the carry, breaks a couple of tackles, and is out to just about the original line of scrimmage, maybe lost a half a yard.
You know, one of the things that people talk about with the safety is guys ducking their head, and here's a perfect example. Watch Alonzo Whaley as he goes to make this tackle. Watch as he ducks his head. Well, it was before that. It was the missed tackle by 45. But Whaley, as he went to make that tackle, ducked his head and didn't wrap up. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff about the safety of dropping your head, but there's also just bad technique. You have to have your face up and wrap up to finish the tackle.
Well, there's that old saying, you can't hit what you don't see. Campbell under pressure, somehow gets away and throws incomplete.
So we'll go back to that tackle. It's just, you know, one of the things that the NFL and, of course, college football is dealing with is the idea of concussions. But watch Whaley as he ducks his head. When you do that, you can't wrap up. And one of the problems in football is youth football, where guys are not taught proper technique when tackling. It's hard. It's your instinct to drop your head when you're going to make a tackle. And there's where you see not only is it dangerous, but it's also bad technique and leads to missed tackles.
3rd and 11 for the Golden Eagles from their own 24-yard line. Opening moments, third quarter. If you just joined us, it's been a good ball game. Here comes the blitz. Flanker screen, Lampley.
If Southern Miss ends up winning this game, I think you could go back to this third down play as Lampley asks to come out and say that this is the one that turned this around. Quattrochi, the center, does a good job getting downfield. Not much of a block, but because there was so much space, Lampley able to get off it. But that was a huge conversion for Southern Miss.
Alford in the quarterback. He'll keep. Nice cut. Well, he made that 8-yard gain look easy, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a good athlete. And now they're going to try to go fast. And I know the coaches want to see this, but you got something going. Campbell makes a nice play, and then you take him out.
Well, Joseph Carter on that last play just tried to wrap his arms around air. That's all he got.
But you're in this ball game. You're down 11. You've got possession. You've got something going. Now make the change at quarterback to go to the true freshman. And not that Alford doesn't have ability, and we've seen that run there, maybe why they want him in there, but I just think Campbell looks like the guy who may give you a better chance to win today.
It's a real balancing act right now between who do you play, who gives you the best chance to win, and how do you get these guys experience and find out who's better. Alford again. Well, he just avoids tackles so easily.
Nice block by the right guard. Ed Preston pulls around. What's he, the runaway beer truck?
That's it.
Well, Compton kind of ran himself out of the way. But there again, you see the technique. And that time it wasn't as bad, but that was safety Stafford. When guys get their head down and start falling forward, it's really hard to wrap guys up.
Spot the ball at the Nebraska 40. Fumble. Nebraska has it. Alonzo Whaley recovers. Hester coughed it up when he touched it.
I'm not so sure that Hester was expecting to get the ball here. And when you play 3 quarterbacks equally all through camp, this is something that can happen because it's different ball handling on this type of play. This is a read zone. Yeah, no, Hester had already closed his arms. There was no basket there for the ball to be put in.
And so that is the quarterback's responsibility.
Yeah, that was just a bad handoff, and it just looked like Hester did not expect to get that ball.
So Nebraska back in the driver's seat. Martinez will get maybe a yard before Dylan Rita takes him down. If you work 3 quarterbacks in practice, you by necessity limit the repetitions that anyone can get.
And working with the receivers and the running backs with because everyone throws the ball differently. The ball comes out differently out of every quarterback's hand. So it makes it really tough. And that right there was just a fumble based on the fact that guys aren't used to playing with each other.
Martinez. Post pattern incomplete. There was some contact from Darren Wilson. Crowd wants a flag. They're not going to get it. Wilson was right there step for step with the receiver. That was a good throw by Martinez.
And Wilson was the guy that the Cornhusker fans wanted PI on before. That's not PI. That is not pass interference. Unless Darren Wilson actually pushed the receiver or changed his direction. But he had good position. The receiver basically ran into him. That's, again, a good no call. The other one was closer. That one, certainly, you don't throw the flag on that.
Wasn't the sharpest of cuts by Enunwa either. Blitz coming. Martinez hit right in the mouth as he got rid of it. The play will take it out near the 50-yard line. That's not enough for a first down. Good defensive stand by the Golden Eagles.
Pretty good job that time of Martinez actually stepping into that ball. Last year, you'd have seen him fall away from that. That was a pretty good job. That's going to be the test as the season goes on. But one thing I've noticed, Mike, the center snaps have been low almost the entire game. And I think that's messing up the timing side for Martinez.
This punt is shanked. Going to be pretty good field position for Southern Mississippi, and today the all-conference kicker Brett Maher having a tough time.
The HP Envy Ultrabook, powered by the Intel Core i3 processor. Ultrabook, inspired by Intel, perfected by HP. Buy an HP PC with Beats Audio and a pair of Beats headphones and get an instant $50 off. Plus, we'll refund your Windows 8 upgrade. See hp.com/beats for details. Only from HP.
Welcome aboard.
Now you'll know when to stop. The all-new Nissan Altima with Easy Fill Tire Alert. It's our most innovative Altima ever. Nissan. Innovation that excites.
Huge matchup tonight in the Cowboys Classic on ABC. The Wolverines roll into Arlington, Texas for a showdown with Nick Saban's Crimson Tide. Saturday Night Football presented by Windows as part of Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week. Number 8 against number 2 tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC.
Just not sure that Michigan front's going to be able to hold up. It's that offensive line.
Southern Mississippi takes over after a poor punt at its own 30. Campbell is back in the quarterback. And let's check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike and Ed, you know, one thing that you guys and I had talked about as being curious with was which side of the sideline would Ellis Johnson spend most of his time, as, of course, as a former defensive coordinator? Because all during fall camp, he said he spent most of his time with the offense, believe it or not. Today, he has been exclusively with the defense. I guess 2 reasons. Number 1, the defense is not playing that well. And number 2, he must have great confidence in his first-time OC, Steve Buckley.
I think that's a great point, Janine. This is Richard in for the first time. The freshman from Alexandria, Louisiana, Jalen Richard, 5'10", 200 pounds. Boy, they are playing a lot of guys in the skill positions, aren't they? And there is Buckley, the offensive coordinator. And a timeout called.
Nebraska.
Nebraska, for the second time in this game, has used a timeout on defense. In case you joined us late, Nebraska's all Big Ten I-back, Rex Burkhead, will not play the rest of the day. He was hurt in the first half, has a sprained left knee. He had a 57-yard run, which was obviously a big play in this game. But this is the play where he injured that left knee. And since he's gone out, Nebraska has only rushed for 68 yards on 20 carries. Obviously, you do not lose a guy like Rex Burkhead, no matter how good his backups are, and be as successful.
And Bo Pelini, looking forward, sounded very optimistic that it's not a bad injury when he was talking to Deline coming off the field. You almost feel like maybe the decision was made, why let him go? If there's a little swelling in there, just get him off the field for this one.
3rd and 6 for Chris Campbell. Threw it into a crowd and had it batted down. It looked like Ankra, who was hurt earlier, was the guy who got the hand up. The big defensive end. Bayham will come on to kick to Abdullah, who moves back to his own 25-yard line.
Abdullah almost broke one early. This is a very explosive guy. So sure, if I want to kick this to the middle of the field, if you can, you'd want Bayham the punter to angle this towards the numbers, if possible. Give him the whole field.
Veteran kickers average over 40 yards a kick for his career. Takes him inside the 20 back to the 19, and good coverage. They swallow him up at the 23 after a return of only 4 yards, and the punt was 47. Emmanuel Jackson made the stop. Nebraska on top, but not comfortably. Taylor Martinez will show off his stuff when we come back.
ESPN's College Football on ABC, brought to you by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. We think possible. And Nissan, innovation for today, innovation for tomorrow, innovation that excites.
Lincoln, Nebraska, the home of the National Museum of Roller Skating. It contains the largest collection of historical roller skates in the world. The collection dates back to 1819, includes all type of roller skates and memorabilia. And I was around some of the roller derby contestants the other day. So they were getting ready for a match here. You call it a match, I guess.
I didn't know you were a roller skater. I was surprised to see you exercising the other day with your roller blades around Lincoln.
I'd be surprised if you saw me exercising the other day, too. What a day for Taylor Martinez. I mean, this is a coming out party of sorts. He has thrown the ball exceptionally well. This is Abdullah trying to get out on a sweep. Justin Jackson, the center, with a good job pulling.
A lot of people during the offseason around here were wondering about Taylor Martinez, and some people kind of raised their eyebrows when he went to work with Steve Calhoun, the quarterback coach, but it was with the full blessing of the staff. Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, met with Taylor and said, here are the things you need to work with in the offseason, and it was Martinez's choice because you can't work with the coaches to go out in California and work with Coach Calhoun, and boy, it's really paying off. We'll see if he can go forward. It's a pretty good defense he's playing against, too.
2nd and 5 for Nebraska. Here's the option. Martinez with the keep. And will be about a yard shy of a first down. Spun down by Justin Penn. Haven't seen very much of the option game today.
Well, it's always going to be in there just so the teams you're playing have to prepare for it. A lot of times you call that option 2-3 times a half just so it's on tape. But this is a chance, I think, if you're Tim Beck. 3rd and short. Be surprised if you see a play action here with a long throw.
Martinez, of course, an outstanding runner, rushed for 874 yards last year. Short set. Didn't have the greatest form in the world on that, but completed it to long. His tight end sidearmed it, sort of flat-footed. But that will happen occasionally, and you can't criticize what he has done in this ball game until now.
That was a reversion to his old technique. You saw right away his feet come together and be parallel. That's why that was bad technique. That's one you can go back and nitpick and say, wait a minute, there was no reason for you to shuffle your feet like that. He had plenty of protection.
Martinez turns the other way and throws. That ball hit the ground incomplete. Knocked down by a Southern Mississippi defender. But for the most part, you got to give Taylor Martinez an A+ for his performance.
Yeah, and that one right there was 2 passes ago. Even though it's complete, you're going to look at that. And Joe Gans, second-time all-time leading passer, is now a graduate assistant here at Nebraska. He and Tim Beck will sit down and say, okay, nitpick time. That was bad technique. No reason for your feet to end up like that. But it's always good to coach them up when they're playing this well.
Bird goes in motion. They want to set up the screen, and they've completed it to Abdullah. And Abdullah still on his feet inside the 20. 22 of 29 passing, and Martinez has just gone over the 300-yard mark.
And credit Justin Jackson, the center, with the tackle there. Watch as 72, first start at center. Watch as he gets out on the screen and just kind of falls down. Well, he actually got a block, but then Abdullah runs into his head. Slows him down enough. I'm not sure if Jackson hadn't spun the other way, Abdullah wouldn't have picked up 5 or 10 more yards.
1st and 10 at the 18. Martinez for the end zone. Caught for a touchdown. Nice throw, nice catch. Kyler Reed, the tight end. The timing was exquisite. Hit him just after the break when he was wide open. Well, the Taylor Martinez critics are going to have to be mute after this
for at least a week.
That's the way it is.
Yes, it is. What a nice job by Taylor Martinez. He has the play fake. Right now, he sees Kyler Reed. Great technique, and he drove the ball. An excellent throw with speed because he knew that window was about to close. What a different guy Martinez is this year than he was last in that pocket.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
We didn't always watch football at Buffalo Wild Wings.
So great to see you guys outside the office.
So you brew your own beer?
Yeah, for you, bratwurst beer, and this one's a secret. Drink up. This one's ready in 2 minutes.
Protect the football. Buffalo Wild Wings.
After completing 56% of his passes last year and predicting he wanted to get 70% this year and taking a lot of flack for it, look what he's at right now, 76% on 23 out of 30. If you're going to make a prediction and you're going to put your reputation on the line and you come through like that, you can keep doing it.
And there was some snickering, I think, around the state of Nebraska, 70%, because last year it got ugly at the end. Really good off-season work.
Southern Miss will take a knee, and they'll take over the 25-yard line. 70%, by the way, is a huge number. These are all-star quarterbacks from last year who exceeded 70%. Look at the names. I mean, these guys were the best that college football had to offer.
And these are all starting quarterbacks who had over 70% completion. Brandon Wheaton, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson will all start week 1 in the NFL.
How about that?
And Robert Griffin for the Redskins. So 4 of those guys are first week starters in the NFL next weekend. So when you say 70%, and with a new quarterback for Southern Miss, the old quarterback at Nebraska, maybe he's on to something.
Here's Hester. Across the 30, fighting for extra yardage to the 32. The new quarterback is Ricky Lloyd, who's a redshirt freshman from Concord, California. He put up some spectacular numbers in prep football. As a senior, he led the state of California with 4,400 yards passing. He completed 301 passes 2 years ago. So they've got one guy who can run the offense, one guy who can run, one guy who can pass, and they're just trying to figure out how they use a mix of the three to be successful. Here's Robert Flores.
All right, Mike, Florida is getting all they want from Bowling Green at home. Anthon Samuel ties the game at 14. Florida drove to about midfield before forced to punt. Now Bowling Green has the ball deep in their own territory. That game is on ESPN, tied at 14. Another MAC team, Northern Illinois, leading Iowa 17-9 going into the fourth on ESPNU. Mike.
And on the play that we did not see, it was a quarterback keeper for 2 yards and a first down. So a new set of downs from the 36-yard line for Ricky Lloyd. And the Southern Mississippi offense, they're now down 35-17. Lloyd under pressure, got away. Nebraska's defense is going to have to be better than it's been today.
Yes, they are. And that's the second missed tackle by Alonzo Whaley. He just looks a little out of control. Of course, Levante David no longer here, a great linebacker for the last couple of years. But Whaley, that's the second tackle where he's just been out of control. And this defense was shredded at times last year. And so far, not a whole lot of improvement. We've seen the offense look way ahead of where they were last year. But so far, the black shirts, as they're called around here, have not looked up to the speed of the offense.
Lloyd sits in the pocket over the middle, tipped and nearly intercepted. P.J. Smith, the safety, had it in his hands after the tip and couldn't hold it.
And there's Ciante Evans again, a guy who had huge strides with great coverage there. And so last year, they just, first year in the Big Ten. And you got a sense, talking to a couple of the guys yesterday, that it was a rough go around here in the locker room. They talked a lot about accountability during the offseason. You feel like there wasn't much of that potentially last year. Something they've tried to change, but playing a little tentative so far today.
3rd and 10, the crowd trying to get into it again. And Southern Mississippi will use a timeout.
Southern Miss.
It's a big play for them, the way their defense is sort of worn down in this game. If Nebraska gets it back and gets another score, that would make it 42-17, pretty much put this one out of reach. Janine, you have more on the accountability factor for Nebraska.
That's right. You know, to start off the season, Bo Pelini took his players aside and said, guys, this is on you. We have got to raise the standards of this team, and you guys are going to have to make it happen. So you know what they did? They brought in some members of the Special Forces. They did team-building military exercises, holding one another accountable, imposing penalties for imperfections. And you know what? Every player that you've asked says they see a difference. They're going to rely on and trust in one another a lot more.
It always amazes me the different things that coaches can do to motivate and teach. And after all, they are basically teachers.
What a novel concept, Mike.
Lloyd. Incomplete. That'll bring up a 4th down.
One of the things yesterday when we were chatting with Will Compton about that training, said the one thing that was a takeaway from those military guys is when things get tough, fall back to your training. Because last year, a lot of times the Nebraska defense felt like they'd get to the sideline after a bad outing, or they didn't get off the field when they had a 3rd down that they should have stopped but didn't stop, and it became everyone kind of doing their own thing a little bit. And so that's one of the things that the military guys were telling them. When things get tough, fall back to your training.
And it wasn't necessarily guys doing their own thing selfishly. A lot of times they were trying to do too much. Abdullah driven back to the 16. Got a seam. Nice return out near the 37-yard line. 48-yard kick, 21-yard run back. Only 2 races left until the chase begins. Greg Biffle, Jimmy Johnson, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. locked in. Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and Jeff Gordon are battling for a wild card spot. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in Atlanta tomorrow night, 6:30 on ESPN. If you're in Nebraska right now, what are you thinking on offense? You just want to put it to them and put it out of reach?
I think you're going to see a lot of runs on this drive. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Martinez dumps this one off to his tight end, Kyler Reed.
You know what's nice when your quarterback is up over 70% and he's playing this well? You're so confident that in a place in the game where you think Nebraska, their offensive linemen are going to break their fingers because they have so much weight on their hand to run the ball. And now you get a guy, Martinez, who is such a great dual threat. But if he's going to be up around 70%, you can call those on first down even when you're up 35-17. Hopefully milk the clock a bit.
This is going to be our first look at a really big I-back. Amani Cross out of Gainesville, Georgia, 6'1", 225. He was a top 20 recruit this year. A true freshman.
And in true Nebraska fan ways, they know, they've been hearing leaks from camp about this young man, and so you could hear the little bit of a gasp when they handed it to him, because this is a big, powerful young man.
And they know their I-backs around here. Martinez fakes it to him this time and throws underneath again. It's his tight end, Kyler Reed.
And Kyler Reed, a guy who looked like he got hurt earlier in the game back. What a great catch. Not a wonderful throw, a little bit behind him. But this is a guy, a little undersized for a tight end. Great speed, great hands. It'll be interesting to see as the season goes on. A lot of times he does that little option route in the middle, but he's a guy from the tight end position or even a slot that can stretch the field down the middle and split the safeties as well.
He has 5 catches today, 1 for a touchdown. This is Abdullah. Inside the 30, picks up about 8 yards. So one of the things that Nebraska wanted to do, they have accomplished today. They've played 4 I-backs. Unfortunately, Burkhead sprained a knee. And the other thing that they accomplished was the debut of the passing Taylor Martinez. He is light years ahead of where he was a year ago. Abdullah bursts off the line of scrimmage, down to the 10-yard line. Spun down there by Darren Wilson.
Watch the end of this run by Abdullah. And this is a little thing. Good push at the point of attack, good kick out. But watch right here at the end. Watch the little shoulder and the push. How many times do you see a running back go for the sideline? But this gives an extra yard or two. Good tackle. But I'm really impressed with Abdullah. If Rex Burkhead happens to be out for a couple of games, this young man always has had good speed. He's getting stronger, and that's a little tiny thing, but a nice run.
Now Braylon Hurd straight up the middle for a touchdown. He's listed 3rd on the depth chart. They've got some guys who can play from that I-back spot this year. That's for sure. And that was what Southern Mississippi feared, to not be able to be productive on that last possession and give it back to Nebraska because they've been so successful like that. The extra point will make it 42-17. And the Cornhuskers, who must have been a little nervous there at moments in the first half, have some breathing room.
Take a look at this replay and have a little fun with Andrew Rodriguez, who's moved from guard to tackle. So he's still trying to figure this out. Not quite sure who to block, so he lets a guy go. But Hurd just had too much speed, so even an unblocked guy doesn't have a chance against Nebraska today. Of course, Rodriguez moved over to tackle when Tyler Moore, who was expected to start at tackle, left the team back home at Florida. The door is open for him to return. Just wanted to go home and figure out what he wanted to do with his college career.
And that is such a critical spot to lose a guy in camp.
And it's why Rodriguez, who was a guard, they had to move out there so that now they have the 3-tackle rotation with Qualley at left tackle, and Cyril's a guy who can swing both between the left and the right. They needed Rodriguez to move out there, and that's one that Barney Cotton and John Garrison, the offensive line coaches, will circle and say, okay, here's a little teaching moment.
Lampley and Sims again deep. And Southern Mississippi will start from the 25-yard line. The kicking game has gone much better after Lampley returned that one from 2 yards deep in the end zone for a touchdown in the first half.
And one thing we have seen, and Mike, you and I were talking about it before the game with that kickoff rule, is there's actually an incentive for the kicking team to kick it short, because if they're going to give you the ball on the 25, they may try to pooch it. And we saw that a bunch earlier, and I think that Bill Pelini, after seeing Lampley go 100, said, no, let's just go ahead and pound it into the end zone. But I think that's something you're going to see. I'm not so sure the incentive for the kick team to kneel, bring it out to the 25, is not also an incentive for the kick team to pooch it, which then brings the collisions back that they're trying to get rid of.
And I don't think there's anything you can do about it from a rule standpoint. It's just, coaches are going to find an advantage in a rule no matter what you do.
Well, if you have a good coverage team and the other team is not good a return team, I would kick it to the 10 or 15 every single time with this new rule. There's just no way I would want that ball in the end zone, giving them the ball on the 25. I'd want to take some chance. It's only 5 yards, I get that, but I also think it's a little bit of a reverse incentive than what they intended with the rule.
And the average field position in college football last year has remained steady throughout the year, so between the 21 and 22-yard line on a return. So you're really not gaining that much if you put them out at the 25. But again, you talk to a coach, 2 or 3 yards makes a big difference. Alford back in at quarterback.
And there was Davian Stafford, a guy who came in from junior college last year in August, and by September 1 he was starting. The coach said he would just try to hang on. He's always been a good hitter. That was a solid stop in the run game from the safety.
He said he had no idea how to play the scheme, but he started anyway because it was just so good. Alford had a little trouble there with that riding handoff, but kept it this time.
I think the choice for Southern Miss going forward is going to be at their quarterback position. Do we want to have a run-based quarterback offense, or do we want to have a throwing-based quarterback offense? The coaches talked about Alford and that he does have good throwing mechanics, although we saw that underthrow he had for a touchdown earlier to Triplett. But I think the choice is going to be for Steve Buckley, the offensive coordinator, and this offensive staff. What type of offense do we want to run? This guy, obviously the best athlete of the three. If you're going to give this guy that much time, it's starting to feel like that's maybe what they're making the choice to do.
Alford wants to throw this time, and it's incomplete. There was some contact, and a flag is down. That's going to be interference called on Andrew Green.
And what Nebraska is going to want is an uncatchable ball, but I think Andrew Green...
Defensive pass interference, number 11. The 15-yard penalty from the previous spot and an automatic first down.
But Green made contact so early. See, he's already making contact, so impossible for that back judge to really know if a play could have been made.
That's usually why the pass is uncatchable, because there's been interference. So I don't think you can use that as a bailout position. But it is a first down for Southern Miss at the Nebraska 44-yard line. I wish they'd take that uncatchable ball rule out. Interference should be interference regardless of where the ball goes. Alford behind Richard. Got a block. And obviously this young man knows what to do when he tucks the ball under his arm.
You know, earlier in the game, I was talking, I wasn't supportive of what they were doing when they took Chris Campbell out, because I felt like Campbell really had a hold of the offense. But now you're starting to see maybe the thinking here, because this guy is a different athlete.
Yes, he is.
He's a different athlete. And if he comes along in the passing game, very much like Taylor Martinez, he just has that little extra quickness. So wouldn't be surprised if Southern Miss, in their next ball game, you see number 2 starting and playing the whole way.
Richard inside the 30. Had it not been for the fact that he told everybody up front that he was going to play baseball, professional baseball during the summer, which means he's just going to miss so much work and be concentrating on a totally different sport, everybody would have recruited this kid. He was a big-time player out of high school. Third quarter is over. Nebraska in control at home against Southern Mississippi.
I'm back on my A game, I'm focused. For me, this is just another victory. Accepted, I'm stronger than the odds now mentally.
Money people say, it's a new day.
fourth quarter at a sold-out Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska, with the Cornhuskers on top of the Golden Eagles, 42-17.
Isn't saying a sold-out stadium almost redundant here in Nebraska now?
Only for the last 50 years.
If you're here, it's a sellout.
Later this fall, it will be the 50th anniversary of the last time they did not sell out this stadium. And they're adding 6,000 more seats. And here's the freshman Anthony Alford, who obviously has escapability.
So earlier in the game, it felt like to me Campbell should have stayed in. But boy, this young man looks the part. And you now know why so many schools were recruiting him. That looks like Ciante Evans down for Nebraska.
He's their nickelback and a very big part of this pass defense. Looks like he's all right. Ed Preston, the offensive lineman, limped off for Southern Mississippi.
And the thing to remember for Southern Miss, they get a bye, and then they play their first Conference USA game against East Carolina.
Yeah.
So during that 2 weeks, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think number 2 is going to be taking all the number 1 snaps at quarterback for Southern Miss. This guy looks like a pretty elite athlete.
10 carries, 68 yards for him. Blitz coming. Runs away from pressure. Boy, he's just quicker than everybody else. And he doesn't make those big moves. It's just a little shuffle of his shoulders.
Those are the guys that I always hated when I played, because for me to run a 40 it took all the effort in the world, and then these guys would come up and just look like it was easy.
A little shake and bake on you, huh?
Yeah.
Jonathan Gary, number 78, the new right guard. Richard drilled at the line of scrimmage. Reaches the 19. Will Compton, middle linebacker's been in on some pretty good hits in this one.
Compton read that right from jump. He absolutely saw where they were going to run that, and he just walked over and stood in the gap where they were going to run that ball. And this is a defense that didn't know what they were going to see. An entirely new coaching staff that came from a bunch of different places, so they didn't know what film to watch. So start to dial it in a bit.
Alford spins out of trouble. Meredith in hot pursuit. And now Alford has to get out of bounds. Good job by Josh Mitchell coming up from the corner to make sure he didn't go any further. Mitchell's one of those guys who said he is the always been the smallest guy on the field, no matter where he has played, no matter what age. The littlest guy, but he was always the fastest too, and now he's starting to learn technique. He's going to be pretty good.
He'd be little in Pee Wee football at 155 pounds.
Acosta is on to try a 37-yard field goal. He's hit from 45. And this one's right down the pipe. So Southern Mississippi raises the total to 20, but they're still down 3 touchdowns to Nebraska. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary, and we will concentrate on Taylor Martinez, who has had a career day. 343 yards passing, 25 of 32, 4 touchdowns, maybe more importantly, no picks. And maybe twice all day did his mechanics.
That's what I was going to say. Of those 32, I was thinking 2 or 3. But if you went last year and he threw 32 passes, it would have been 20 of those passes where his mechanics were off.
No doubt.
And the positive feedback of how well he played, because it does become, when you're breaking those bad habits, it does become about muscle memory. And it's starting to feel like this is the way I've always done. So after having a game like this, where he just looked like he had control of the passing game, that right there, that throw right there, if you go back to last year, that would have been incomplete every time. Now, granted, it was a great play by the receiver.
Right.
But, and that ball a little low, but still, the ball has zipped. He had to zip that ball because the window was closing. This has just been a masterful performance. First time out of the gate with his new technique for Martinez.
He stays in there, as does Abdullah. Takes it out over the 30 to the 32. Alex Smith made the tackle, and Martinez, of course, continues to climb up that all-time total offense mark. Eric Crouch, number 1 overall, that number well within reach. He is now number 2, needs 2,000 more yards in total offense, and you would have to expect he will get that. Only time will tell if against a better pass rush in a more pressure-packed situation, maybe even on the road, will the technique stand up, or will he revert to the bad habits he had before? But you can only say so far so good, and he gets a star for today.
Well, they play at Ohio State on October 6th, and I think that Ohio State may have the best defensive line in the country. And this offensive line, if they continue to improve, which they'll have to, maybe they can give him the time, but I think that'll be a game that will really tell if he's bought into the mechanics, because he'll have had almost half a season to work on them, and that will be a challenge on the road in Columbus.
Amani Cross has checked in as the tailback, and Martinez set to throw, wants to air it out again. Crowd wants a flag. Ed Wilkins in the coverage of Kenny Bell. And there is a flag.
Pass interference. Defense, number 20. 15 yards from the previous spot. First down.
And I still think that this is a well-thrown ball. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you're throwing a long ball, you throw it short or on the money. Because if you throw it long, it's never complete. If you throw it short, this is exactly what you get. And you may nitpick and say, oh, he underthrew that ball. But when you throw a long fade like that as a quarterback, and last year Martinez overthrew a ton of them, but the result now is 15 yards instead of just an incomplete pass.
Martinez on the keeper, and he's taken down at the 37 by Jamie Collins. Let's check in with Janine.
Well, guys, you know, Taylor Martinez has not just worked on his mechanics this offseason. Everybody around him says that he has improved by leaps and bounds just in his composure and in his confidence. And in speaking with him yesterday, it was palpable. He feels so much more comfortable in his own skin. He's really matured. I've covered Nebraska games the last few years where I've seen a tense, frustrated Martinez on the sideline. Not today.
Janine, it was interesting when we were talking to Rex Burkhead. What's the most, did you ask him, Ed, what's the most frequent question you get? And he said, how's Taylor Martinez doing?
Yeah,
here's a guy who's all conference in the Big Ten. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate and a legitimate one. And people come up to him onto the street and say, hey, how you doing, Rex? How's Taylor?
It's unreal. But you know what? And it's not just Nebraska fans. It's football fans in general. There's so much focus on the quarterback position. I had a couple friends in the NFL who used to say the most popular NFL quarterback is the backup.
You bet. It is the flashpoint. There is no doubt about it. I'm a little surprised Martinez is still in the ballgame right now. They do not have a lot of experience behind him. Ron Kellogg is a junior, is a walk-on. Tommy Armstrong Jr. is a true freshman. Breon Carnes is a sophomore. He threw 2 passes last year. He's got the most experience.
I think this is right on the fence. You're right at 3 touchdowns. You're inside 10 minutes. I don't disagree with the decision to play Martinez here, but I think certainly after this drive, you're going to see Kellogg come on, and Armstrong, a young man who has great promise, but they're going to do everything they can to redshirt him. Only in a situation where Taylor Martinez is out for an extended period do I think you'll see Armstrong.
Double reverse. Bell, 20, 16-yard line, saving tackle by Darren Wilson. And you can bet one thing about the quarterback situation. Taylor Martinez does not want to come out of this ballgame. He's having a ball.
Darren Wilson has played a pretty good, nice game. Look at that technique. See the head up all the way through the tackle. You know, we've seen a couple of times for Nebraska defensively when Whaley came in dropping his head. That was good technique. Not till the very last minute. It's natural to drop your head, but he was balanced on his feet.
2nd and 3. Hurd trying to muscle his way to a first down. Looks like he has it near the 12. Michael Smith, reserve defensive lineman, made the tackle.
And And this is where it's so nice to have a quarterback that's as explosive as Martinez, because now the field is so much shorter than it was when you were at midfield, so your pass game gets so much more compressed. But if you can spread people out, a guy like Martinez gives you so many options inside the 15-yard line.
Bell and Allen are the wide receivers. Cross will get the carry. He's tripped up as he got to the 6. Good tackle by Ja'Corius Cotton.
And Cotton's a guy that missed that tackle earlier in the game on Burkhead's long run. A lot of things to clean up here for Southern Miss, but this is a guy that the coaches expected to really help in the run game.
Well, they said his best strength is being in the box, down there taking on those running backs, and he was the leading tackler on this defense a year ago when it was a really good unit.
It's Tommy West, who was hired as the defensive coordinator after a year at UAB. Of course, head coach at Clemson and Memphis during his career.
Martinez has that one batted down in his face. Justin Penn knocked it away. Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week will continue with the Chick-fil-A kickoff game tonight on ESPN. Number 14, Clemson's electrifying offense takes on Auburn tonight at 7 on ESPN. Also live on Watch ESPN, and it's presented by Hampton Hotels.
It won't quite be as explosive without Sammy Watkins out for a couple of games.
What a player.
Suspension, yeah.
What a player.
I'll be interested to see the growth in Taj Boyd, the quarterback for Clemson. I saw him against Virginia Tech last year. Looked like the best player in college football, but then he was very up and down the rest of the season.
Yeah. Martinez fires to the goal line. Touchdown. Abdullah out of the backfield makes the catch. Taylor Martinez has his 5th touchdown throw of the ball game.
Boy, that's fit in there nicely, isn't it? It was covered almost perfectly. They had it over the top and underneath, and Martinez fit that ball in nicely.
Eight different rushers, 10 different receivers, and 7 different guys have scored touchdowns today. That's why they call it a team. Betrayed by the very nation they swore to protect, the crew of America's most powerful nuclear submarine has been targeted for destruction. And the creator of the Shield, Andre Brower and Scott Speedman, star in Last Resort. The series premiere Thursday, September 27th, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ABC. Seven minutes, 47 seconds to go. Nebraska now firmly in control of this game against visiting Southern Mississippi. And Ricky Lloyd, one of 3 quarterbacks fighting for that starting job, is back in there. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike, if it's any consolation to Southern Miss, they did not have a perfect prep week for this game, thanks to Hurricane Isaac. Their entire week was messed up. And look at this. This is Thursday, practicing on a soaked field in a downpour. And not only that, but their equipment guys had to leave 2 days early to avoid the storm. They had to change their off day. Ellis Johnson called the entire week a mess. And to learn how you can help for Hurricane Isaac and other disasters, please visit redcross.org. Mike?
Imagine how frightening that is for people at the Gulf Coast after what they experienced 7 years ago. Just to see the word hurricane. I'm glad it was far less than it could have been on this occasion. Third and 9. Alford back at quarterback. They're going to have to make a decision on this. I don't think working 3 quarterbacks throughout the season is going to be
That's the guy.
Something they can do. You would think, wouldn't you?
That's the guy.
Let's get an update on college football from the studio. Here's Robert Flores.
Hey, Mike, Cal opened up their recently renovated stadium with the loss today to Nevada. Stephon Jefferson, 3 touchdowns in the win. The Wolfpack 0-10 in season openers against BCS teams before today.
Boy, Cal has really struggled the last couple of years. That is a huge loss for them. and a big win for Nevada.
Especially playing in your new building. They shut down, they played across the bay.
Yeah, you want to welcome in all those new ticket holders, celebrate. Alford on the keeper to the 46. Here's what Nebraska has to face at home. Number 12, Wisconsin. Number 8, Michigan, and Penn State. On the road, Ohio State ranked 18th. Northwestern, number 13, Michigan State, and Iowa. The teams that they don't play, well, the schedule maker did not do them any favors.
Welcome
the
to
first
the Big
2
Ten,
years.
Nebraska.
Yeah, thank you so much. You do not get Illinois, Indiana, or Purdue.
You get Wisconsin and Ohio State. And, of course, Penn State is a protected cross-division rival, so they'll always play Penn State.
So you're welcomed with open arms at about the hardest schedule they can find.
Starting September 29th, they go Wisconsin at Ohio State.
Here we go.
They get a bye, then they go at Northwestern, who they lost to last year, Michigan, and then at Michigan State on November 3rd.
Yikes.
Good luck. That's tough.
Yes, it is. 2nd and 14, Tyree Brackett. Dragged down by Cooper in the backfield. Big loss. Clock continues to run as we had 5 minutes.
John Papuchis, the new defensive coordinator, took over for Carl Pelini this year, was talking to us in our meeting about how we have to adjust on the fly. Of course, they've been here for 5 years. Papuchis has been on the staff the entire time. So they all know each other very well, but you can see in the second half that they started to figure out this offense. Of course, with Alford in, it's become a little more simplistic because it looks like they're going to a quarterback run system for Southern Miss. But the Black Shirts have played much better in the first half than they did in the second, that's for sure.
The one thing defensively they wanted to do this year was get more pass pressure. They only had 21 sacks a year ago. That was 84th in the country. Of course, the problem was you don't get many sacks when you have 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 4. They gave up too much yardage on the first 2 downs in the series to really get a serious pass pressure.
And that was one thing Papuchis said he was going to change a little bit this year, was starting to bring a little more pressure, move his linemen a little bit more.
Yes.
The defensive line here plays what's called a 2-gap technique, meaning the defensive linemen a lot of times are responsible for the gap on either side of the offensive line, and sometimes that makes guys squat a little bit and not get pressure. So they're going to move their line more in 1st and 2nd down, get more pressure to try to get into 3rd and long situations a little more this season.
Bam kicking to Turner. It comes up short and it'll be down just outside the 15-yard line. Kick of 42 and no return. 4 minutes, 16 seconds left in Lincoln. Dick's Sporting Goods Kickoff Week continues with a Chick-fil-A kickoff game tonight on ESPN. Number 14, Clemson will take on Auburn at 7 on ESPN. Also live on Watch ESPN. It's presented by Hampton Hotels. Taylor Martinez is done with a career-high 354 yards passing. Let's take a look at today's Good Hands play, brought to you by Allstate.
Good hands and a good throw by Taylor Martinez. Stephen Osborne, nice job, got that right foot down as he made the grab, and it was really good coverage. But again, it's Taylor Martinez throwing a really nice deep ball, which you couldn't say very often last year.
Ron Kellogg III is the new quarterback. He gives off to the freshman I-back, Amani Cross. Kellogg, a junior walk-on, who's a better passer than a runner, according to the scouting report out of Omaha. And we have a player down right now. One of the main storylines about Taylor Martinez this year, his mechanics. Has it been answered?
Did you see that shuffle right there? That's exactly what you want a quarterback to do going through his reads. However, there's always stuff to work on. This is the old stuff. See that left foot kick back, and then he's got to bring it up? that's exactly the type of thing that he did last year. So there will be things to work on for Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator, and Joe Gans, the graduate assistant, who was a fine quarterback here in Nebraska in his own right. But I'm sure that there's a look at Joe Gans. He was quarterback in 2008. But it'd also be Steve Calhoun, who I'm sure is back in California, the quarterback coach who worked during the spring and the summer with Martinez. But they'll look at that last one and say, oh, that's the old stuff creeping in.
Well, I'll bet Calhoun was celebrating most of the day because his work with Taylor Martinez during the summer certainly paid off. The difference of night and day from last year.
You know, and a lot of the reason that these young men have to go work with specialty coaches is because the 20-hour rule was instituted when I was in college back in the 90s. But the coaches can't work with the players during the offseason. So all of that technique stuff you kind of have to do on your own. And for a quarterback, it's good to have an eye like Calhoun looking at you, working on the stuff you need to work on.
Plus, if you're a specialist like Calhoun is, who specializes in this kind of situation, and then you have the Manning passing camp where you've got Eli and Peyton and Archie, three guys who really knew how to get it done. You know, that's some big-time instruction there.
Martinez went to the Manning passing camp, and every quarterback you talk to that goes to the Manning passing camp talks about you learn as much about being a quarterback off the field as you do on the field from the Mannings, because they talk about how to carry yourself, how to watch film, how to be a leader on the field.
And those guys just don't know how to do it. They do it instinctively. I think that is one of the great football families in the history of this country, the way they have not only played but conducted themselves. Well, passing has not been the calling card at Nebraska, but here on the career passing list, remember David Humm, he was one of the few guys during that era who could really chuck it for Nebraska. But Taylor Martinez really working his way up the passing charts and the total offense charts. By the time he's done, he's going to own a lot of records here.
And, looks like they may have another eye back. That's going to be okay. And Amani Cross, the true freshman.
Yeah.
They do pull-ups as part of their strength testing at Nebraska when they come back from the summer. And this freshman at 225 pounds did 41 pull-ups. If you're at home and you have somewhere where you can go grab a hold of something and try a pull-up, 41. I'm in pretty good shape. I could probably do 4. 41 pull-ups is insane.
Just pretend to do one that goes to tag down. I mean, that's the way to do it. Or if you do one, say, it wasn't too bad. I could have done 40.
First Saturday of college football, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are sunk pretty deep in their couch right now. There's no way they're doing pull-ups.
Clock running. We're inside a minute, and Nebraska is going to leave the field here in Lincoln rather satisfied with themselves, particularly on offense. And they'll keep their fingers crossed that the sprained knee of Rex Burkhead is just a one-week thing, and they're not going to have to worry about him down the road. Bo Pelini, when he talked to Janine at halftime, did not sound like it was a long-term injury. They were just being very cautious about the rest of today's game. And Nebraska as a team, 626 yards in total offense pending this play. That'll put them over 630 for the afternoon. And that's pretty good.
It is. And for Southern Miss, they're going to learn a lot off this tape. But Ellis Johnson and his staff in their first year, they get a bye. And I think that's going to be a big help for them because they go right into Conference USA play against a pretty good East Carolina defense.
And you have the feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of Mr. Alford.
I think so.
Hey, Ellis, good luck.
That'll take care of an Ellis Johnson who said he wanted another shot at being a head coach. He'll be successful there. He's been successful as a defensive coach everywhere he has ever gone. And the program itself has gone to 18 straight bowl games. And Bo Pelini starts just the way he wanted to, 1-0. And Taylor Martinez showed him he could get it done today.
At 11 a.m. as we take on Arkansas State, and we all hope to see you there.
Go to the sidelines for Janine Edwards.
Bo, congratulations. What did you see today from your quarterback that was most different from the Taylor Martinez of last season?
Well, I mean, I've been saying I think he's a lot more in control. He's a lot more confident. And, you know, he's been a young guy. You know, he's going into his third year. And that's what I expected to see from them today.
You told us that game planning for Southern Miss was one of the toughest things you've done. What enabled you guys to adjust so effectively?
Well, we practiced a lot. I think we actually screwed ourselves up because we were practicing for so many things, but they were a little more conventional than I thought they'd be, which actually was a little bit of an adjustment for our guys because we were expecting some crazy stuff. But I thought our guys played well, and I think, if we clean up the special teams, I thought it was a pretty complete effort.
Well, congratulations on a great opener for the Nebraska Huskers and Taylor Martinez, guys.
There he is right there.
Janine, thanks very much. They made adjustments on the fly, and just a tremendous afternoon for Taylor Martinez. Our hats off to him. Once again, the final score here in Lincoln was Nebraska 49, Southern Mississippi 20. For Ed Cunningham, Janine Edwards, and our entire hardworking crew, this is Mike Patrick. Thanks for watching, everybody. So long from Lincoln, Nebraska. Now we'll take you back to our studio. Thanks for watching.